Hey, what's up everyone? I just thought I would go ahead and do this video regarding the splitting of the polar vortex. I found out about this a couple of weeks ago, really, and it's been reported on a few other times since then. And now, not only is AccuWeather, the National Weather Service, the Weather Channel, and Weather Nation, and multiple other weather sources, they are reporting on this, but also it has been reported on the Strange Sounds Twitter page. I've been following this for quite some time, probably I would say about a month, and they've been talking about it extensively, more so within the past 2 weeks, so I thought I would go ahead and get to it and do a video about it. The polar vortex just split in two, and this article was posted on February 16th, 2018. So get ready for some wild weather from Europe to the United States. As if the weather wasn't already wild enough. I mean, it's crazy enough. I'm sure you're well aware of that. We went from, let's see, yesterday, it went from, maybe it was a couple of days ago, but had to pause this video. I've still got this really bad cough and congestion, but we just went from, it was 71 in the morning hours for the morning low, and then throughout the day the temperatures dwindled and they went down to the 50s, then the 40s, and it was about 48 and then dropped to 46 during the night, during the early evening hours. And then it started going back up by midnight and 1:30, and then at 1:30 it was in the 50s. 2 a.m. it was about 56 degrees, and the next day we were in the 60s. Then we were in the 70s, nearly 80, and now we're like 76 outside today. And Saturday we're going to be in the 70s, nearly 80 again, so maybe a little bit lower than that. But they're calling for, on AccuWeather, they say some colder weather, maybe even teens as temperatures, like 14 wind chills, and ice and snow might be occurring by March 9th and after, but we'll have to monitor that situation. I'll let you know what's going to take place as time moves on, but they are calling for some more snow events to take place as we head into March. But as of right now, the news for this video is the splitting of the polar vortex. The polar vortex has just split in two recently, and this split will have far-reaching consequences for weather patterns from Canada to Eurasia, the Europe and Asian areas. Since the polar vortex tends to be associated with some of the coldest air during the winter, the temporary separation means ultra-cold air is on the move. As you can see, this high and two low-pressure systems, this high-pressure system in the middle and these two low-pressure systems on the east and west areas shown on the screen there. The high pressure in the center, and the right and left is the two low-pressure systems. But since this polar vortex tends to be associated with some of the coldest air, right now the separation means it's on the move, and it's likely to put Western Europe and much of Eurasia, the European and Asian areas, into the deep freeze for the rest of February in these locations. And it will offer glimpses of hope for snow lovers if you like the snow and ice along the United States East Coast. So look out for that there in those locations. One piece of the polar vortex is sliding northwest or southwest, out of the Arctic and into western Canada and the Pacific Northwest, where frigid conditions and above average snowfall is favored for the next few weeks or so. Another is now spinning out of the Arctic and over Eurasia. Caught in between is the Arctic Ocean, which should have some of the coldest air of any region in the northeastern or in the northern hemisphere right now, but instead has seen another unusually mild winter. The polar vortex its split means that the ultra cold air is being siphoned away from the Arctic, leaving unusually mild conditions in its wake. I know we've been extremely mild. Multiple 80-degree days in February. We're expecting over like 13 inches of rain by to have fallen throughout February by Sunday. So you don't usually get multiple 80 degrees and 70-degree days in February, and over 9 inches to 13 inches of rain in February alone. So crazy weather. It's been crazy for a while now, though. But anyway, most computer models appear to agree that in the near term, hold on, colder and stormier conditions than average are likely for for Western Europe and much of Eurasia during the rest of February into early March. During that same period, the eastern United States will experience something of a spring thaw, which we are experiencing that currently right now, with temperatures as much as 20 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit above average for this time of year. Highs in the 70s and highs in the 80s that we've had for the closing days of February in Washington, D.C., New York City are likely, and they saw record cold at the start of the winter. Many of us did here in the United States. Ski areas in the western part of the country, particularly in the northern Rockies, could see heavy snowfall and ideal snowmaking conditions during the next 2 weeks. This is the outlook this is February 20th to February 24th. So that ends tomorrow, this outlook. This is the current outlook through tomorrow as far as the weather. So you can expect warmer than average conditions and a lot of rain. Models are indicating very impressive early spring warmth across the eastern United States, as well as the central areas and southern areas next week, and the west and the Rockies will have some cold air to deal with, however. That was the tweet from this individual here. Don't be surprised if Arctic sea ice sets yet another record low for this winter season. The split occurred in the atmosphere. The main polar vortex exists in the stratosphere, which is the layer of air above where most of our weather occurs. A sudden warming of the stratosphere over the Arctic, appropriately known as a sudden stratospheric warming event, took place in early to mid-February, and this has caused the splitting of the stratospheric polar vortex. Sudden atmospheric warming events occur when large atmospheric waves send energy upward into the stratosphere, setting in motion a complex process that results in the temporary breakdown of the polar vortex. This February's stratospheric warming event was particularly extreme, though, possibly setting records for how sharply temperatures spiked in the upper atmosphere. I know we've had temperature spikes up and down like a roller coaster, record setting, I would say. We had a record-breaking 80, 81, or 83 degree day just a few days ago, so definitely record-breaking days for sure. They had upper 80s in the southwest down in Texas, so from what I heard. And Missouri, I believe, got to 86 in some locations, so definitely record-breaking for February. The polar vortex isn't the only factor favoring a cold snap in Europe, a warm-up in the eastern United States, and a cool-down in the west. There's also a cycle of atmospheric pressure over the North Atlantic Ocean known as the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NOA, that can increase the odds of colder and snowier weather in some of these areas. Now, computer models are projecting that the NOA, the North Atlantic Oscillation, will become strongly negative during the next few weeks in response to the polar vortex splitting and the stratospheric warming event. These couple together, and also this also favors the cold and snow in Western Europe when this happens. It also ups the odds of similar weather events in the eastern areas of the United States, but that may not happen just right away, so we'll have to watch this as it progresses, and you can check out this video on YouTube here regarding the jet stream and the pressure systems and the polar vortex and all of this, and you can watch this video, and it shows exactly the locations of the jet stream and what the polar vortex is, where it's going, and how it works. So you can check that out on this link. I will put the link below for you to check this out. A significant polar vortex, or PV, disruption is often followed by widespread cold temperatures across northern European and Asian areas, or the Eurasian and Eastern United States. However, the cold is more certain across northern Eurasia following these types of PV disruptions. Meteorologist Judah Cohen, who specializes in seasonal weather forecasting and tracking the polar vortex for AER, a Verisk analytics company, wrote on his blog the following: the negative mode of the NOA typically features an area of strong high pressure over Greenland. That's usually where the high pressure is stationed. If you remember back when Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy happened, that's where the high pressure system was supposed to be, but it moved out of the way, and the low pressure system moved there, and it went chaotic during that time when that superstorm occurred, and it moved out of the way, and then there was the low pressure systems were switched positions, and the high pressure system moved, and it coupled with the supermoon and the high tide and all of that together caused a really like 3 days of supermoon and full moon situation. All of that coupled together really strengthened that really strengthened that situation during Hurricane or Superstorm Sandy, where the high pressure system is supposed to remain, but it moved at that time, so it was like pushing it toward the eastern coast of the United States. But anyway, back to this article. That area, usually where the high pressure system is over Greenland, which usually blocks the progression of weather systems moving in from the southwest and causes the jet stream to plunge southward over Europe, allowing cold air to flow in from the Arctic and Scandinavia. Sudden atmospheric warming events tend to cause the NAO to switch into negative mode shortly after they occur. And here are 3 of the images shown, the conditions currently in the atmosphere worldwide. GFS is predicting textbook example of the warming of the Arctic and the cold Eurasia pattern to end this month of February. Can't recall such a strong and extensive cold forecast for the Eurasian continent in history. So this is going to be one of their coldest, if not the coldest, they've ever experienced in the Eurasia area, and eastern United States as well, possibly, but we'll have to see by the end of February. The rest of February should feature a colder than average western United States coupled with a milder than average east coast. However, a negative NAO phase could bring a return of winter weather to the east in early March. Like I was stating earlier, around March 9th in central and eastern United States could receive snow and ice and some more cold weather. Depending on where exactly that Greenland block sets up. So that's the factor in this. There's often a delay when the polar vortex is disrupted and when the cold air arrives in parts of the United States, if at all. So we'll have to watch this situation as it progresses. Snow lovers will be watching upcoming forecast anxiously, because the deeper into March we go, the less likely widespread snows along the east coast and in the United States become. So be ready or prepared for upcoming strange weather, as we have been quite used to strange weather lately. A lot of strange weather for the past several years, really, since 2011 or 2012, but really since 2012. So yeah, the polar vortex has split, and this is what's happening currently. So let me know your thoughts on this. What's the weather like in your area? It's been a crazy roller coaster for us and a lot of rain, so much love. And it looks like early March it could turn cold, probably around March 9th. It could turn cold and snowy, maybe some ice, and then before warming back up a little bit. But for now, it's going to remain pretty warm. Fairly mild for February, that's for sure. Very mild. So anyway, much love. This is the forecast for the polar vortex split. I just wanted to give you an update on the information. So peace, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again hopefully very soon. Bye.